Alien girl's reproductive organ has tentacles and moves like an octopus. Case worth studying. Ryan Blackwood had seen some weird, in his career as a xenobiologist for the Terran Exploration Corps, so 12 years of cataloging the galaxy's strangest life forms had left him with the firm belief that nothing could surprise him anymore. Three-headed carnivorous plants that sang opera, documented gaseous entities that communicated through controlled flatulence, studied and classified sentient rocks that reproduced by splitting themselves with hammers, and he'd written the damn paper. But today, in the sterile confines of Research Station Alpha 9 orbiting the gas giant Helios, Ryan found himself utterly speechless. Holy, hell, he muttered, staring at the holographic display hovering above the diagnostic table. The alien woman lying beneath the scanner, who had introduced herself as Mira, raised a delicate silver eyebrow. Her vibrant red skin contrasted sharply with her flowing silver-white hair that cascaded around her shoulders like liquid mercury. She wore only the standard issue white medical undergarments, revealing a physique that was disturbingly human-like in most respects. Is there a problem, Dr. Blackwood? She asked, her voice melodic and calm, as if they were discussing the weather and not the anatomical impossibility currently displayed in high definition above her. Ryan ran a hand through his chestnut hair, the stubble on his jaw scratching against his palm as he tried to compose himself. The fitted green t-shirt he wore suddenly felt too tight across his chest as sweat beat on his forehead. No problem, he lied, eyes fixed on the scan. Just unexpected findings. What the scan showed was beyond unexpected. It was revolutionary. Mira's reproductive system appeared to have a consciousness of its own, a complex network of tentacle-like appendages that moved independently, almost like a separate organism living within her. As he watched the tentacles shifted position, seeming to orient themselves toward him, almost like they were studying him. You seem disturbed, Mira observed, her golden eyes fixed on his face with unnerving intensity. Is my anatomy so different from what you expected? Ryan swallowed hard. Different doesn't begin to cover it. Your reproductive system appears to be semi-autonomous. It's moving independently of your conscious control. A small smile played at the corners of Mira's full lips. And this concerns you? Concerns isn't the word I'd use. Fascinates, terrifies, confounds, those are more accurate. He adjusted the scanner, zooming in on the tentacle-like structures. These appendages, they're muscular but also neural. They have their own network of ganglia, almost like a secondary brain. Yes, Mira said simply, as if this were the most normal thing in the universe. Ryan's scientific curiosity began overriding his initial shock. The evolutionary advantage is unclear. Why would a species develop a reproductive system with its own neural network? What purpose does it serve? Mira sat up slightly, her silver hair falling forward over one shoulder. Perhaps you're asking the wrong questions, Dr. Blackwood. What should I be asking? Her golden eyes seemed to glow brighter. Perhaps you should be asking why I've allowed you to examine me at all. A chill ran down Ryan's spine that had nothing to do with the station's environmental controls. He suddenly became acutely aware that he was alone in the lab with her, the rest of the research team having left for the day. The nearest security personnel were 2 levels away. You requested the examination, he said carefully, taking a subtle step back from the table. Did I? Mira's smile widened, revealing teeth that were just a touch too sharp to be human. Or did your superiors arrange this meeting because they were curious about rumors of my species? Ryan's hand moved slowly toward the emergency call button on his wristband. Who are you really, Mira? What are you? The tentacles on the display writhed more vigorously, as if responding to her emotional state, or perhaps controlling it. I am exactly what I appear to be, she said, swinging her legs over the side of the table with fluid grace. A visitor from the Crimson Nebula, interested in cultural exchange. My people are called the Nari. The Nari, Ryan repeated the name, unfamiliar. We have no records of contact with your species. Not officially, no. Mira stood, her movements smooth and predatory. But we've been watching humanity for some time. You're interesting to us. Ryan's back hit the lab counter. He hadn't realized he'd been retreating. Interesting how Mira took a step toward him, and the air between them seemed to thicken with tension. Your species is so contradictory, violent yet compassionate, destructive yet creative, primitive yet advancing so quickly. She tilted her head, studying him like a curious specimen, and so very, very adaptable. The scanner behind her continued to display the writhing tentacles within her, now moving with greater agitation. Ryan couldn't tear his eyes away from the display. What do the Nari want with humans? He asked, his Mouth dry, Mara was close enough now that he could feel the heat radiating from her red skin. That depends on what humans can offer. A symbiosis can take many forms. Dr. Blackwood symbiosis. Ryan's scientific mind raced through the implications. You're looking for biological compatibility. Her golden eyes flashed with something that might have been amusement among other things. My reproductive system, as you call it, is not just for reproduction, it's for connection, understanding, communion. Ryan's heart hammered in his chest. And you chose me for this communion? You were recommended, she said simply. Your file suggests you're more open-minded than most, less likely to react with fear or disgust to a biological differences. Who recommended me? Ryan demanded, his voice firmer now. Mira's smile faded slightly. That's not important right now. What matters is whether you're willing to help us understand humanity better. She reached out, her fingers hovering just above his arm. Whether you're willing to let us understand you. Ryan stared at her, conflict raging within him, professional curiosity weared with primal caution. This was the discovery of a lifetime, a new species with biology unlike anything recorded in human science. But every instinct screamed that he was in danger. Or was he? Mira had made no threatening moves. She'd submitted to examination willingly. If the Nari had wanted to harm humans, why announce themselves this way? I need to report this to my superiors, he said finally. Mira's expression hardened almost imperceptibly. Of course, but consider what will happen then. I'll be quarantined, studied like a lab specimen. Our chance for mutual understanding will be lost in a flurry of protocols and paranoia. She wasn't wrong. Standard procedure for first contact with an unknown species was isolation in extensive testing, especially one with such unusual biology. What exactly are you proposing? Ryan asked. Mira's smile returned warm and inviting. A private exchange of information. You learn about my species, I learn about yours. No bureaucracy, no military intervention. Just two scientists exploring new frontiers. Ryan knew he should refuse it. Violated every protocol in the book, but the scientist in him, the part that had driven him to the stars in the first place, was already considering the possibilities. I need time to think, he said. Of course, Mira replied, stepping back to give him space, but don't take too long. Dr. Blackwood, my presence here won't remain a secret forever. As if on cue, the lab door slid open and Dr. Elias Chamberlain, the station's medical director, walked in, his attention focused on a data pad. Ryan, I need those preliminary scans of our visitor for the. He looked up, his sentence cutting off abruptly as he saw Mira standing there, the holographic display of her unusual anatomy still hovering in the air. What the hell is that? Elias asked, his eyes wide with shock. Ryan looked from Elias to Mira, whose expression had gone carefully neutral. The moment of decision had arrived sooner than expected. That, Ryan said slowly, is something I think we need to discuss in private, sir. The lights flickered once, twice, then died completely. What the? Ryan heard Dr. Chamberlain's startled voice in the sudden darkness. The emergency backup generator should have kicked in immediately, but the lab remained pitch black. Ryan felt a surge of adrenaline as his training kicked in. Elias, stay where you are, he called out, reaching for his wrist device to activate its emergency light before he could press the button. The floor beneath them shuddered violently. Ryan lost his balance, stumbling backward into what he thought was the lab counter. Instead, he felt warm skin. Mira, her hand steadied him surprisingly strong. Something's wrong, she whispered, her breath hot against his ear. The emergency lights finally flickered on, bathing the lab in an eerie red glow. Ryan spun around, expecting to see Mira behind him, but she was gone. Where did she go? Dr. Chamberlain demanded, looking around frantically. The alien woman, she was just here. Ryan stared at the empty space where Mira had stood seconds ago. I don't know, she was right here. A sharp pain suddenly lanced through his right wrist. Ryan hissed, clutching at it as the burning sensation intensified. Pulling back his sleeve, he froze at what he saw, a small, iridescent patch of skin that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. Ryan, what's wrong? Chamberlain approached, concern etched on his face. Ryan quickly pulled his sleeve down. Some instinct told him to keep this new development to himself. Nothing, just banked my arm when I fell. The station's PA system crackled to life. Attention all personnel. We are experiencing a station-wide power fluctuation. Please remain at your stations until further notice. This is not a drill. Chamberlain ran a hand through his gray-streaked hair. I need to check on the medical bay. Will you be all right here? I'll be fine, Ryan assured him. Go. As soon as Chamberlain left, Ryan examined his wrist again. The patch had grown slightly, now about the size of a coin. It resembled Mara's red skin, but with subtle patterns that shifted and changed as he watched. "What the hell did you do to me?" he muttered. "I had no choice," a voice answered in his mind. Ryan nearly jumped out of his skin. "Mirror. Yes, I'm sorry for the intrusion, but there wasn't time to explain. Where are you and what is this thing on my wrist I'm hiding? Your colleague's arrival complicated matters. The implant is a communication node. It allows me to speak with you telepathically." Ryan paced the lab, trying to process this new development. "You could have asked permission before attaching some alien tech to my body. Would you have said yes?" The mental voice carried a hint of amusement. "That's not the point," Ryan argued, feeling ridiculous talking to an empty room. "You can't just. They're coming for me." Ryan Mira's mental voice turned urgent. "Your people detected my ship entering your space. The power failure was them attempting to lock down the station." "Who's them?" "The military." "Yes, they know what I am, or they think they do. They've encountered my kind before, but under different circumstances." Ryan looked at the implant again. It pulsed in time with his heartbeat, which was racing. "Are you controlling me with this thing?" Number mental voice softened. "It's a connection, not control. I can speak to you, sense your strong emotions, but nothing more. I needed someone who would listen before they judged." Despite his better judgment, Ryan found himself believing her. "What do you want from me?" "Help me leave the station before they find me. After that I'll remove the implant and be on my way." Ryan hesitated. Helping an alien evade human authorities was treason, but if Mara was telling the truth and the military had encountered her species before, how do I know I can trust you? "You don't, but I think you want to." She wasn't wrong from the moment he'd seen her on that examination table. Something about Mira had drawn him, and it wasn't just scientific curiosity. There was an attraction he couldn't explain, a pull that defied logic. The implant warmed against his skin, and suddenly Ryan was flooded with sensations that weren't his own: fear, hope, and something else. A warm, electric feeling when she thought of him. "Was that? Are those your emotions?" he asked, breathless. "Yes, the connection works both ways. I wanted you to know I'm not lying." The intimacy of it was overwhelming, feeling another being's emotions as if they were his own. It was invasive yet strangely exhilarating. "Where are you hiding?" he asked finally. "Maintenance shaft 7B, near the auxiliary life support systems." Ryan grabbed his tablet and lab coat. "Stay there, I'm coming to you." As he moved toward the door, the implant pulsed with what felt like gratitude and relief, but underneath was something else, a hunger that made his skin flush with heat. "Thank you, Ryan." The corridor outside was chaos, with personnel rushing to their emergency stations. No one paid attention to Ryan as he slipped into a service elevator. His mind raced with questions, but one thought dominated. What was he getting himself into? The implant warmed again, sending a pleasant tingle up his arm. This time the sensation was unmistakably desire, Mara's desire flowing into him through their connection. "This is going to complicate things," he muttered to himself as the elevator descended. "Yes," came her reply, tinged with what felt like a smile. "But isn't that what makes life interesting?" The maintenance shaft was cramped and dimly lit, forcing Ryan to crouch as he made his way through the narrow passage. The implant on his wrist pulsed more intensely the further he went, like a compass guiding him to Mirror. "You're close," her voice whispered in his mind. He rounded a corner and found her crouched beside a ventilation duct in the low emergency lighting. Her red skin looked almost black, but her silver hair gleamed like liquid metal. She wore a form-fitting black bodysuit now, not the medical garments from earlier. "You changed," Ryan said, immediately feeling foolish for stating the obvious. Mira's lips curved into a smile. "My examination attire wasn't suitable for an escape." She reached for his wrist, examining the implant. "It's bonding well with your tissue. About that we need to talk about consent and boundaries," Ryan said, trying to ignore the pleasant warmth that spread from her touch. "On Earth we generally ask before attaching alien tech to someone's body." "There wasn't time," she replied, not sounding particularly apologetic. "But I understand your concern. Human autonomy is fascinating." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Is that not a concept for your species?" "The Nari view connection differently. We seek it out, cultivate it. The boundaries between individuals are more permeable." Her golden eyes studied him with open curiosity. "Your species builds walls, ours builds bridges." Ryan was about to respond when the station's alarm system suddenly blared to life. "Attention all personnel, security breach in Sector 7. Unknown biological entity detected. All non-essential personnel evacuate immediately. They've detected my ship," Mira said, rising to her feet. "We need to hurry. Your ship, it's here on the station." She nodded. "Docked in a maintenance bay. I disguised its signature, but the security sweep must have found it." Ryan followed her through a series of increasingly narrow passages, the implant guiding him when they separated briefly. To avoid security patrols, finally they reached a small airlock that appeared to be used for external repairs. In here, Mira said, placing her palm against the access panel. It shouldn't have responded to her touch, but the display flickered and the door slid open. Inside was not the expected maintenance area, but a sleek vessel about the size of a shuttlecraft. Its hull was a deep crimson with organic curves that reminded Ryan of a sea creature. Impressive, he said, running his hand along the smooth surface. I've never seen anything like it. It's a scout ship, Mira explained, pressing her palm to the home. A seam appeared, widening into an entrance. Come. The interior was just as unusual as the exterior, more like a living space than a cockpit. Soft pulsating lights, illuminated surfaces that seemed to shift and change like living tissue. Is this alive? Ryan asked, hesitating at the threshold. In a matter of speaking, Nari technology integrates biological components. Mira moved to what appeared to be the control center. We should leave quickly. Ryan remained at the entrance. Before I go any further, I need to know the truth. Why are you really here? What's your mission? Mira paused, her back to him. The ship's interior lights pulsed in rhythm with the implant on his wrist. I told you. Cultural exchange, __, Ryan said firmly. The military doesn't mobilize for cultural exchanges, and you don't hide in maintenance shafts if your intentions are purely diplomatic. She turned to face him, her expression unreadable. You're right, my mission is more specific. She gestured to a transparent container near the ship's center. Inside were dozens of small vials, each containing different colored substances. What are those? Genetic samples from various species. Across this sector of the galaxy, a cold feeling settled in Ryan's stomach. Including humans, that was the plan. Mira stepped closer to him. My people are researchers, Ryan. We study life in all its forms, especially reproductive biology. The implant warmed against his skin and he felt a wave of emotions, from her scientific curiosity but also something more personal, desire, interest that went beyond mere research. So I was just going to be another sample in your collection? Ryan asked, anger rising despite the artificial warmth from the implant. No, Mira said quickly, not just a sample. She seemed to struggle for words. Different how she reached for his face, her fingers hovering just above his skin. Most species we study are primitive or simple. Humans are complex, contradictory. You feel fear and curiosity simultaneously. You're capable of both violence and compassion. Her eyes met his. You're the most fascinating species we've encountered in centuries. Ryan could feel her sincerity through their connection, but also her determination. And my genetic material. That's still part of your mission? Yes, she admitted, but not in the way you think. We don't clone or manipulate, we learn. Understand. Your reproductive capabilities are particularly interesting because they are so different from yours. Ryan gestured to his own body. A smile played at Mira's lips. Yes, your method is inefficient, but it has other qualities that make up for that. Despite everything, Ryan felt himself responding to her proximity, to the undeniable attraction between them. The implant pulsed with shared desire, his and hers. It becoming difficult to distinguish this connection between us, he said, his voice low. Is it real or is it the implant making me feel this way? Mira stepped closer, eliminating the space between them. The implant enhances what's already there. It doesn't create feelings that don't exist. Her hand finally made contact with his face, and the sensation was electric. Through their connection, Ryan felt her fascination with his skin, his warmth, the rough texture of his stubble. All new experiences for her. I need to know, he said, struggling to maintain focus as their shared arousal intensified. If we do this, if I help you, what happens to the samples? To humanity. Knowledge, she whispered. Just knowledge. My people have no interest in conquest, we seek understanding. Ryan wanted to believe her. The scientist in him understood the drive to know, to discover, and the man in him wanted her with an intensity that was becoming impossible to ignore. The station's alarm suddenly changed tone, becoming more urgent. They're getting closer, Mira said. We need to decide now. Ryan looked at the sample container, then back at Mira. In her eyes he saw genuine curiosity about him, not just as a specimen but as a person. The connection between them felt real. Whatever its origin, if I help you, he said finally, I want to learn about your people too. Equal exchange, and I come with you not as a sample but as a partner in this research. Mira's eyes widened with surprise, then something like respect. You would leave your world for the chance to study a new species up close, to be the first human to truly understand the Nari? Ryan smiled. That's worth the risk. The implant pulsed with what felt like joy in something deeper that neither of them was ready to name. The journey to the Nari research vessel took 3 days. 3 days of Ryan and Mira in close quarters, their connection through the implant growing stronger by the hour. 3 days of learning each other's bodies through stolen touches and heated glances, neither quite ready to cross the final threshold despite their mutual desire when they finally docked with the massive Nari vessel, a sprawling structure that resembled a giant coral reef more than a spaceship. Ryan was equal parts nervous and excited. "Welcome to the Nexa," Mira said as the airlock cycled open, "our primary research hub in this sector." Ryan stepped through the doorway and froze. The interior was vast, with soaring ceilings and organic architecture that flowed like liquid, but what stopped him in his tracks were the people, humans, at least 24 of them, moving freely among the red-skinned Nari. "You didn't mention there were other humans here," he said, unable to keep the accusation from his voice. Mira touched his arm lightly. "I wanted you to see for yourself. Would you have believed me?" "Probably not," Ryan had to admit. A tall gray-haired man in a lab coat approached them, his face breaking into a warm smile. "You must be Dr. Blackwood," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Thomas Harrington, former xenobiologist from Europa Station. Welcome to the most fascinating research opportunity in human history." Ryan shook his hand, noting the man's firm grip. "How long have you been here?" 12 years, Thomas replied. "There are 37 of us now. Scientists mostly from various Earth outposts, all volunteers," Mira added quickly, sensing Ryan's concern. "No one is held against their will." Thomas nodded. "The Nari approached each of us individually like you. We were chosen for our open-mindedness and scientific curiosity." As they walked through the vessel, Ryan observed the interactions between humans and Nari. There was an easy camaraderie that suggested years of cooperation, but he also noticed something else: subtle differences in some of the humans. One woman had faint red patterns on her skin similar to Mira's. A man's eyes had the same golden hue as the Nari. "They've been modified," Ryan said quietly to Mira. "Enhanced," Thomas corrected, overhearing. "Some of us have chosen to accept certain Nari biological adaptations. It helps with the research, allows us to better understand their physiology." Ryan felt a surge of discomfort. "I'm not interested in being enhanced. I came to study the Nari, not become one." Thomas raised his hands placatingly. "Completely voluntary, I assure you. Many of us remain fully human." Mira led them to what appeared to be living quarters. "You'll stay here," she said, showing Ryan a comfortable room with views of space through a large viewport. "I'm just down the corridor." Thomas excused himself, leaving them alone. As soon as the door closed, Ryan turned to Mira. "You should have told me about the others and the modifications. Would it have changed your decision?" she asked, her golden eyes searching his. Ryan ran a hand through his hair. "I don't know. Maybe. I believe in studying other species, not becoming them." Through their connection he felt her confusion. "The modifications are minor, Ryan. They allow deeper understanding. Isn't that what science is about? Pushing boundaries. There are some boundaries that shouldn't be crossed," he insisted. "Humanity is special. We've evolved over millions of years to be exactly what we are. I don't want to lose that." Mira moved closer, her expression thoughtful. "What you call humanity, is it just your physical form or something more?" The question caught him off guard. "Both, I suppose. Our bodies and minds evolve together. Change one too much and you risk losing what makes us human." "Fascinating," she murmured. "My people view the body as more adaptable, a vessel that can be improved." Their philosophical difference hung between them but didn't diminish the attraction that had been building since they met. If anything, the tension between their viewpoints added another layer of intensity to their connection. Mira's hand found his, her fingers intertwining with his. "Would you like to see my quarters?" The implant pulsed with shared desire, making Ryan's breath catch. Yes, her room was similar to his, but filled with objects he didn't recognize, sculptures that seemed to move when he wasn't looking directly at them, and plants with luminescent fronds that reached toward them as they entered. "These respond to emotional states," Mira explained, noticing his interest in the plants. "They're more vibrant than usual right now." "Because of us?" Ryan asked. She nodded, stepping closer. "They sense our connection." The air between them seemed to thicken with tension. Ryan reached out, tracing the curve of her face with his fingertips. Her skin was warmer than a human's, with a texture like velvet. "I've been thinking about this since I first saw you," he admitted. Mira's eyes darkened with desire. "I know. I've felt it through our bond." Their first kiss was electric. Literally, a small spark jumped between their lips as they met, making them both laugh softly. The second kiss was deeper, more exploratory. Through their connection, Ryan could feel Mira's fascination with the sensation so different from Nari forms of intimacy. "Your species expresses connection so physically," she whispered against his mouth. "It's beautiful." "How do the Nari express it?" Ryan asked, his hands finding the curve of her waist. In answer, she guided his hand to the implant on his wrist. Through this, but never so completely as what we're about to share. What followed was a revelation for both of them, a joining of bodies that transcended their biological differences. For Ryan it was both familiar and utterly new, enhanced by their mental connection that allowed him to experience Mira's pleasure alongside his own. For Mira it was an introduction to human intimacy, raw and primal in a way her species had evolved beyond. Afterward, lying together in the soft living bed that conformed to their bodies, Ryan felt a contentment he'd never experienced before. That was, he began, unable to find adequate words in. Yes, Mara agreed, her silver hair spread across his chest. I understand now why your species has preserved this method of connection despite its inefficiency. Ryan laughed. Inefficient? Maybe, but worth it. Through their bond he felt her agreement and something deeper taking root between them, something neither had anticipated when this journey began. Orion's first week aboard the Nexus was a whirlwind of discovery and tension. By day he worked alongside Mira in the research lab studying the unique reproductive biology of the Nari. By night they explored each other with increasing intimacy, their connection deepening with each encounter. But not everything aboard the vessel was harmonious. The human contingent had quietly divided into two factions: the purists, who like Ryan believed in maintaining human biological integrity, and the integrationists, who had accepted various Nari modifications. The neural enhancement alone has doubled my cognitive processing, explained Dr. to Diana Foster, a neurobiologist with subtle red markings along her temples. I can perceive patterns I never would have noticed before. Ryan nodded politely, but his discomfort must have shown on his face. You think we've compromised our humanity? Diana said, not a question but a statement. I think humanity isn't something that needs fixing, Ryan replied carefully. We've survived and thrived for thousands of years as we are survived, yes, but we could be so much more. Diana's eyes, now with flecks of Nari gold, studied him with scientific detachment. Your perspective is limiting. These interactions left Ryan feeling increasingly isolated until he met Dr. Stephen Chamberlain, no relation to Elias Akuma, a geneticist who shared his views on human biological preservation. Don't let them pressure you, Stephen told him over lunch in the communal dining area. The modifications start small, enhance vision, improve cellular regeneration, but they change you in ways you can't anticipate. How many of us are still unmodified? Ryan asked. 15 out of 37, Stephen replied, and our numbers are dwindling. The Nari don't force it, but the advantages are seductive. Ryan thought of Mira, of their nights together. Was their relationship another form of seduction, a way to bring him closer to accepting Nari perspectives? That evening he confronted her in their now shared quarters. Are you trying to change me? He asked directly. Mira looked up from the data she was reviewing, her expression puzzled. Change you how? The implant, our connection, is it designed to make me more receptive to Nari modifications? Her confusion felt genuine through their bond. No, Ryan, the implant is for communication only. I would never alter you without consent, but you'd like to. He pressed. You think humans would be better with Nari enhancements? Mira set aside her work and approached him. I think humans are remarkable exactly as you are. Your adaptability, your resilience, no, these qualities develop naturally over millennia of evolution. Why would I want to change that through their connection? Ryan felt her sincerity and something else, admiration, not just for him personally but for humanity as a species. Then why do so many of the other humans here have modifications? They asked for them, Mara said simply, each for their own reasons. Some for research, others for health benefits, all by choice. Ryan's tension eased slightly, and my choice to remain unmodified is respected, she assured him, taking his hands in hers. More than that, it's valuable. Your perspective as an unaltered human provides insights we couldn't gain otherwise. The next day Ryan threw himself into his research. With renewed focus, using the Nexus's advanced imaging systems, he began mapping the neural pathways of the Nari reproductive system, specifically the tentacle-like structures that had so shocked him during his first scan of